Hello, you guys. This is Charlie Rocket. I'm a little bit late on my Thursday comic book review, but I'm gonna do it. Okay. I was supposed to do Miles Morales like 2 weeks ago. I had to take a little hiatus. Sometimes you need a little breather just for yourself. I'm not trying to put too much pressure on myself, but I'm still gonna do it. I don't care if it is Friday. This is Spider-Man, Miles Morales, the ultimate Spider-Man, because that is who he is, ultimate. We are going to be talking about this giant ultimate collection that I have right here, which is a big, thick book. So this might be a long one. I'm going to try and breeze on through, not take too much time on the small details. Just give you the basic story, and then we can talk a little bit about how it measures up to the movie. Now, a lot of people may have already told you this, but the movie is fairly accurate to the comic books, but the comics for Miles Morales are really just like Spider-Man Homecoming. They basically mixed the two together and made it into Peter for Spider-Man Homecoming. So that's what's up. This comic book starts with the Prowler. Boom, boom, boom. The Prowler is in an old Oscorp building where he is stealing some wonderful tech, and a spider sneaks into his bag. We go through, and Miles is with his family. He's going to do the whole lottery thing for students who have qualified to join this big, huge magnet school. And of course, he is one of the students who makes it in. We all know this from the movie. He's one of the students who makes it in. He gets to go to this big school. It's a school that you have to live at. So he's moving out, living at this school, like in a dorm room type situation. We also know that he is very fond of his dear old Uncle Aaron, who is actually not really the best of role models, but he loves his uncle, and his uncle's the cool uncle. So he visits his Uncle Aaron, and while he is there, that's when we find out he is Prowler, because he has a bag that has the tech in it, and then a spider crawls out onto Miles's hand. Now, in the movie, it took us a little longer to find out he was Prowler, and we also had a completely different situation on how the spider bit him, but he did bite him right in Uncle Aaron's apartment. When he bit him, Miles passes out and he's foaming at the mouth, and Aaron is concerned to the point where he calls Miles' dad. So Miles' dad comes over. He's very upset because Miles is not supposed to be with his uncle because his uncle is bad news. Miles awakens to his dad and his uncle arguing. He runs out of the apartment because he gets so upset. As he is running, that is when he discovers his spider powers. He's running around. He becomes partially invisible, which is his, camouflage technique that he has. Very new spider powers, He's running. He realizes he can jump high and he can do all these things. And he's not sure where it all came from. A group of thugs try to, rob him, and he touches one and is able to use his shocking powers to slightly, electrocute him, and he gets away. He runs immediately to his dorm room to see his best friend. Bam. And that's the exact same best friend from Spider-Man Homecoming. That's why I said they kind of mix the stories together, because it's the same situation, the same best friend, the same whatever, where his friend is playing with the Legos, building something with the Legos, and he comes to show him, I have spider powers, help me. And so the friend decides he wants to help him. He's like, this is the coolest thing ever. Miles is not really for it yet, but his friend is like, we're going to discover how to fix this. Shortly after that, he meets back up with his dad, who explains, look, your Uncle Aaron is bad news. Both your Uncle Aaron and I were arrested when we were younger. Unfortunately, from that experience, he didn't get better. I did. I decided I was going the straight and narrow. That's when I became a police officer, and I decided to, do better, and Uncle Aaron just stayed going down the wrong route. With this new information, Miles decides that maybe his dad's right, maybe so. They also witness some superheroes in the park. It looks like Iceman and the Human Torch are just flying on through. And that's when you realize his dad is not the biggest fan of superheroes. Just like in just like in Into the Spider-Verse, his dad is not the biggest fan of the Spider-Man, but he's not the biggest fan of any superheroes. Just then, he gets text messages from his best friends like, hey, I think you're a new Spider-Man. I think that's what it is. You got bit by a spider. Your powers seem to be the same as some abilities that spiders have. It may not be abilities that Spider-Man has, but maybe you're a different kind. Why don't you try it out? And so Miles immediately thinks of Spider-Man, starts climbing the wall, and he realizes he is the new Spider-Man. And he's like, oh crap. He is not happy about that. So moving on, he and his friend go to talk to Uncle Aaron because that's the only person he thinks he can talk to. He can't talk to his dad about this. He doesn't even like superheroes. And Uncle Aaron completely had moved out of his apartment. They don't know where he went. So they decide to go somewhere else, which is on the way back, they see there is a fire. So there's a fire. This is his chance. He's going to be the new superhero. He doesn't have a costume or anything. He's out there saving people, not even in any kind of disguise, and realizes, you know what, I kind of enjoy this. So he and his friend get back to the room. While they're there, they're given a new roommate. So now there's another aspect to this. He has to now juggle to where if he sneaks out to be Spider-Man, he has to sneak around this second roommate who doesn't know his identity. Miles also starts having a dream about Electro coming to get him, which wakes him up in the middle of the night. And then one of the teachers, guards, somebody comes to wake everybody up for a drill. There's an emergency drill because Spider-Man has been shot. So what happens? Miles Morales asks his friend to kind of cover for him as he runs quickly to find out what is happening to Spider-Man. And what had happened was Spider-Man was fighting the Goblin, who everyone now found out was Norman Osborn. And he's saving MJ, as he always does. And there's a huge explosion, and Peter Parker dies. Gwen Stacy is there, Aunt May is there, everyone's there. He's in front of his house. He's unmasked. There's a huge crowd, so everybody finds out he's Peter Parker as he dies in his own front yard. Miles is extremely distraught because he sees this with his own eyes, you know. His friend's like, you're the new Spider-Man. That's what it has to be. They end up going over to where the funeral was held, just like in the movie where MJ was making this big speech, except for Spider-Man is a lot younger. Peter Parker is a lot younger in this comic book. Even this version that passes away is a lot younger. He's about the same age, a little older than Miles, so like teenage, like late teenage years. At the funeral, he ends up talking a little bit to Gwen Stacy to find out why was Spider-Man being Spider-Man? Like, what drove him to do this? And she told him about with great power comes great responsibility. His Uncle Ben told him that. He felt responsible for Uncle Ben's death. He wasn't. And he said, well, why did he wear the mask? And she said to protect his family and the people important to him. So Miles decided, I need a mask. He draws something up, but of course he doesn't make it. He buys a Spider-Man suit, just like in the movie. He's wearing the Spider-Man costume, little rinky-dink one. He's doing little tiny missions. He's fighting crime, all this stuff, and eventually he ends up on a rooftop with Spider-Woman. She's like, hey kid, you're a new Spider-Man. The costume's a little out of taste right now. He really just died. They end up fighting on a rooftop because he doesn't want anything to do with her. She wraps him up, you know, webs him up, takes his mask off, and she's like, what is this? You know, what is all this? He ends up trying to escape, hits his head, knocks himself out. So, of course, Spider-Woman takes him to the ultimate headquarters, basically for S.H.I.E.L.D. Bam, he's talking to, Nick Fury. We got Iron Man here. We got Hawkeye. All of them, okay? Nick Fury ends up questioning him. They talk for a long time. While they're talking, Electro awakens in a hospital bed from, I don't know what. He's at a medical ward somewhere. Why they wouldn't have, like, high security at this medical ward if it's Electro, I have no clue. But he electrocutes everyone and escapes. Makes it to the S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, starts fighting everybody. He's just electrocuting everyone. He beats Iron Man. He beats Hawkeye. And Miles sneaks up behind him. A little shock to the neck. Which distracts him. It hits him. Distracts him. But then he's like, what? Is that all you got? I'm an electric person. But then Nick Fury's able to shoot him while he's distracted. And he is shot. And probably dead. Because it was Nick Fury. So that's Miles' first real big situation. In the meantime, while all that's taking place, Uncle Aaron is out here in these streets looking for his next big score. He ends up running into Scorpion and realizing he wants some stuff that Scorpion's got. Miles is just kind of, discovering his powers, learning how to use them, working with his friend, talking to his family, and his family, his dad just keeps talking about how he's not for superheroes, blah, blah, blah. He ends up fighting Omega Red, which I thought was really cool. I see Omega Red a lot more recently than I have in the past, So that's pretty cool. Meanwhile, Prowler is out here talking to the Tinkerer, trying to get some new gadgets and whatnot. Ends up stealing some stuff from him and murdering him, shooting him. I feel like the Tinkerer always ends up dead. But then again, he's always also alive if he's always in all these movies. I don't know what to tell you. But when he kills him, he was reading a newspaper that had the new Spider-Man on it. Now, this new Spider-Man has, of course, Miles Morales' black suit. Because he obtained this suit from S.H.I.E.L.D. It was a gift to him. He has proven himself. They're giving him kind of a trial run, so they gave him a new awesome suit. Prowler looks at this paper. He's like, new Spider-Man. He thinks about it for a little while. And he puts the pieces together. Of course he does. So he goes and pays a little visit to his dear nephew at school. Bam. Now this little conversation looks pretty shifty. His uncle's giving shifty vibes. He's like, Miles, we should have a conversation. I know you're Spider-Man. He tried to deny it for a little while, but they were like, nah, I know. We'll talk later. The security at his school is pretty tight, so they were like, you're not on the visitation list. Kicked him out, and he was like, we'll talk later. Also, who saw this newspaper article was Aunt May and Gwen Stacy. They are kind of keeping track of this Spider-Man situation because they're not sure what's going on. And also, you can imagine how they feel after Peter just died. Another person keeping track of this is Miles' dad. He's a police officer. They're like, man, now we got another vigilante on our hands. Like, what are we going to do about this? All right, so we also see Scorpion kind of killing some folks. Let me tell you, this is not as child-friendly as Into the Spider-Verse. There's a lot of blood. There's a lot of, killing. They don't necessarily show any of it, but they do show the blood, So be mindful. Check it out before you just hand it to your children. Know what they can do. This also has a lot more going on at his school than in the movie. So Miles is just, fighting different crimes, doing different things. He ends up running into his dad while he's Spider-Man. And his dad kind of says, am I going to be running into you a lot? Is this going to be a thing? And he's like, I'm trying to help where I can, I'm trying to help. His dad's like, I know. Anywho, Prowler tries to take on Scorpion by itself, just to kind of feel it out. Doesn't work out. He's using the new tech from the Tinkerer, and what tech is that? He's got wonderful, amazing, where is it? Vulture wings. He stole the vulture wings. He can shoot the little wings out. He has something that electrocutes people. He, of course, has his Prowler gauntlet things from the movie. He had a whole bunch of tech. But ends up still having to run from Scorpion, gets his butt whooped. So, when Miles ends up going to sleep, Uncle Aaron's like, come talk to me. Come meet with me. And this is like 2 a.m. He goes to meet Uncle Aaron on rooftop. He's like, look, kid, we should work together. Me, I'm the Prowler. Surprise. And guess what? I'm the reason you have your powers. Here's what happens. He explains to him what happens, how he got bit by that spider, how that spider came to be. And he taunts Miles so that he can feel out what kind of powers Miles has. Miles is like, I don't want to fight you. I don't want to do this. And he's like, nah, you going to fight me. Shoots at him with the gauntlets. Miles has to end up fighting back. He shows him a majority of his powers just in that fight. So Prowler says, you know what? We should work together. This should be a thing, you know? And Miles is like, nah, no, I already talked to S.H.I.E.L.D. They got me, blah, blah, blah. He was like, do you think they really care about you? You think they got time for you? They're over here doing all this other stuff. They're not including you. They don't care about you. That's also kind of like Spider-Man Homecoming. If you remember, Peter Parker really wanted to be a part of, Avengers stuff and all these missions, and they kept leaving him behind. He kept trying to call Happy, and it's kind of same feeling. So after thinking about it for a while, he realized, you know what, I am kind of left out. He messages his uncle. He's like, I'm in. So uncle's like, cool, we're going to do some real superhero work. Takes him to go fight Scorpion and Scorpion's crew. It ends up being a whole shootout, a whole lot of issues, and he ends up winning. He fights them all. He wins. The police are outside and are able to take in Scorpion and all of his gang, but he looks around. Uncle Aaron ain't there. Where did Uncle Aaron go? He's gone. He left me there to die. He makes it back home with his friend and gets a text message from Uncle Aaron like, hey, you still alive, boo? And he's like, dude, how you gonna leave me? I'm not doing this with you anymore. You just wanted to go in there and steal whatever you stole and do you. And I'm not down with that. And Uncle Aaron was like, nah, you can't say no because we're already a thing now. And he's like, nah, I'm not doing it. Next thing you know, Uncle Aaron shows up at his house, as he's walking home from school one day. Shows up, he's out front. He's like, yo, you gotta join me. Otherwise, I'm telling your dad what you're up to. I'm telling him everything. I don't care. We'll both be in trouble. And he's like, fine. I'll do it. Whatever. Ends up meeting with his Uncle Aaron on the rooftop because his Uncle Aaron was like, somebody's going to get hurt if you leave me hanging again. He was like, cool, I'll show up. Meets him on the rooftop. Uncle Aaron's like, good. That wasn't so hard. And he was like, nah, you listen, Uncle Aaron. I'm not doing this. We're not doing this. They end up fighting. It's a long, drawn-out fight that ends up going into the street. He breaks one of Uncle Aaron's, little gauntlets to where it's, has sparks and all this stuff. They end up fighting, pushing a bus over. Civilians are in danger. Miles is trying to help the civilians. Aaron is trying to still fight him. To the point where Aaron's so mad, he's like, I'm going to kill your family. He's like, I don't even care. He was like, you know what? I'm going to kill you. I'm going to leave your dead corpse in your dad's lap. And Miles is like, dude, what? This is crazy. That's not Into the Spider-Verse at all. They really let you feel for Uncle Aaron and be like, oh, Uncle Aaron died. Oh my God. In this thing, you're like, murder Uncle Aaron because he's a psycho. He's crazy. And so he's fighting with Uncle Aaron. Uncle Aaron goes to punch him. His gauntlet kind of fizzes out and explodes. So it explodes. In the explosion, pew, Miles' mask gets all effed up and whatnot. Uncle Aaron dies. And in his last breath basically says, me and you are the same kind of person. And Miles is like, dang. You know? So that was the end of that arc. And the very end piece of this comic book is kind of where Into the Spider-Verse came in. Like, of course we had Uncle Aaron and all that jazz, but like the whole beginning of this was basically Homecoming. It was the Spider-Man Homecoming, you know? So this is where Into the Spider-Verse starts. It starts out with Peter Parker. He's fighting crime. He ends up finding this big, huge, like, vortex thing. And he realizes it's Mysterio. Mysterio is creating some kind of vortex, some kind of opening, some kind of whatever. It is a portal to a different universe, Miles's universe. Peter gets pushed into it. Mysterio actually was using it to go back and forth and do certain things. He had a mock Mysterio on the other side that was helping control the other side of the vortex. So it wasn't Kingpin and all them. It was Mysterio in this situation. Which makes me wonder about the new Spider-Man movie and Mysterio's the bad guy. I'm hoping that somehow Miles becomes a thing. But anyway, back to this. Can't get too off topic. Immediately, Peter ends up finding Miles. They fight on a rooftop a little bit. Somehow Peter Parker gets knocked out. Miles is very intrigued by the webbing that he has. When Peter Parker gets knocked out by Miles's like electric shock, he falls from a building. Miles catches him, and very similarly to the movie, uses Peter's webbing to save them. See, and they fly across the street just like in the movie, which is hilarious to me. From there, he takes them directly to S.H.I.E.L.D. He's like, they can deal with this. Nick Fury talks to them. They figure out about the opening. And as they figure out about it, Mysterio shows up. And he creates all of these visions for them of their worst nightmares. But the worst nightmares he uses this time are Peter Parker's. He brings back all of these bad guys, all the big baddies, all the ones we know and love. And so Peter and Miles have to fight them. But he also brought back Uncle Aaron. So Miles is a little distracted. But once Miles realizes it's an illusion, he is able to tackle Mysterio, break the machine, and completely destroy the illusion. Just then, of course, that's when the Avengers come all extra late. And Tony decides to analyze this tech. So when they look around, Peter Parker's nowhere to be found. Where'd he go? He ran to a convenience store. He helped save the day. This lady's like, aren't you supposed to be dead? He was like, what are you talking about? That's when he finds out that Peter Parker of this universe is actually dead. This new Peter Parker, who came from the other universe, is a lot older than the one that was from Miles' universe. So first thing he does, goes to Aunt May's house, where Gwen Stacy has been chilling with Aunt May, helping her to grieve and whatnot. They're like, who are you? Don't come on our porch with a Spider-Man costume. He lifts his mask, and they are in shock. But they're also a little bit scared, so they end up punching him in the face, trying to beat him up. And they're like, no. He's like, no, I'm from a different universe. Miles shows up, tries to stop them. They're like, all these Spider-Men, ah! Aunt May passes out, the whole nine. So they end up talking to them. What's different about this universe than that universe? They called MJ to let her know, but she's like, no, I'm not coming over. She became like really emo. She's like, I don't even want to do it. I don't even want to do it. Gwen Stacy is super shy because she loves Peter, just like MJ loves Peter. And she's like, oh, well, did we date in your universe? And he's like, well, I dated a lot of people, so, and he did. He's, you know, ladies' man. My boo. Anyways, and he was like, what about here? And she was like, you ended up with MJ, so forget you. So forget you. Don't even worry about it. We just friends, because you all about MJ. Anyways, they end up giving Miles web shooters. Like some basic web shooters to add to his ensemble. They say goodbye to everyone. They cry. But it's nice for closure, kind of. S.H.I.E.L.D. comes to pick them up, and as Nick Fury picks them up, they see MJ across the street staring like a little stalker, and then she ends up running away because she can't handle it. So he was going to chase after her, but he ends up just in the car. They head back, they catch Mysterio, they're going to go back to where they need to be. Ends up being a huge fight because Mysterio had a backup plan. He creates everybody's nightmare again. Here it is, Tony Stark, we all know his nightmare is the Avengers dying. Bam, we've got Nick Fury's nightmare, the whole city's on fire. We've got Peter Parker's nightmare, and it's Doc Ock has killed Aunt May and everyone. And then Miles has, the Prowler has killed his parents. The only one able to break free of this illusion is Miles. He is able to stop the illusions, beat up Mysterio, and everyone's free, has Mysterio in their grasp, and end up sending him back home with Peter. Peter says, long-awaited goodbye. As he's about to leave, he's like, the most important thing about being Spider-Man is... And he's gone because Tony Stark turns the machine off. He's like, and it's closed. Like, as he was about to say it. They don't dwell too much on that, but this is the end of the big, epic story. Peter Parker then, while he's chilling in his house, he's like, Miles Morales, I wonder if we have a Miles Morales. He starts to look it up. He Googles it, put that in that Google search, and then he's like, oh no. And that's where the comic ends. We're left on a cliffhanger. What happened? What's up with Miles in his world? Like, what's going on? But that was the story as a whole. It's really, really good. I love the artwork. All of the fight scenes were really cool. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, and Peter Parker is my absolute favorite Spider person ever. As much as I love everyone else, Peter Parker is the ish for me. So I was so happy when he showed up in this comic book. I was freaking out. As you can tell, there's a lot of differences between this comic book and Into the Spider-Verse. There's also a lot of differences, similarities between this comic book and Spider-Man Homecoming. Spider-Man Homecoming also had Uncle Aaron make an appearance, played by Childish Gambino. If you guys saw Donald Glover on that, on the movie very briefly, that is why, because he is Uncle Aaron. So I'm hoping Miles makes an appearance. If you guys remember, there was some leaked footage of Avengers Infinity Wars back when they first announced it, where there was more than one Spider-Man seen on the screen at the same time. Everybody was hoping it was Miles. We don't know, but everyone's forgotten it since then, and also they like to trick us with false trailers and whatnot. So I'm still hoping and holding out for Miles, especially with Mysterio being on the next Spider-Man Far From Home. And I actually liked all the changes they made cinematically into the Spider-Verse. I thought it was really cool that they changed the way Uncle Aaron was so that you felt more sorry for him when he passed away. You know, there's not a lot of minorities on the big screen, so I felt like that gave us more than it took from us. And it didn't really take away much from the story. You know, Miles was still driven to be a superhero, just for different reasons, you know? Not so much to protect his family and to not become his uncle, but more so to avenge his uncle. Just like Peter Parker, it gave them kind of a parallel, avenge your uncle's death kind of thing, which was kind of cool, you know? And the addition of a bunch more spider people into the Spider-Verse was really fun and really cool, and a lot more villains. I don't know, I love the story.